Yo, what is going on, guys? And welcome back to another video. Welcome back to part 2 of a 3-part series here on the YouTube channel where we are covering the free agency predictions sponsored by none other than Oreos.
Yes.
Nah, we're playing. But I mean, if Oreo sees this somehow, I don't know how, maybe through TikTok, because the TikTok is booming right now.
Yeah, man.
Hey, we love Oreos. But if you guys didn't see part 1 of our free agency predictions, make sure to check that out. It's up on Instagram. TikTok is booming right now. I believe we have a little over we're getting close to 3,000 followers on TikTok, and we also had a little over 3,000 views on our free agency predictions over on TikTok. Follow us on Instagram as well. We post stuff on there about when we're going to upload and just to keep you guys updated. And also, obviously, here on YouTube, we covered a full breakdown exclusively on YouTube of our free agency predictions. And that's what got us here today because we have posted part 2 of our free agency predictions on Instagram, on TikTok. And here you are hearing our full breakdown for part 2 of our free agency predictions. We have numbers 20 to 11. And I got to say, 20 to 11 is definitely more stacked than 30 to 21 is. Got a couple of comments on TikTok, some people looking forward to part 2, so here it is. And we are excited to bring it to you. So I feel like without further ado, we should just jump right into it, bro.
Yes, sir. Let's go. All right. So for number 20, we have Robert Suarez, relief pitcher for the Padres. Last season, in 70 games, 2.97 ERA, 40 saves, 75 Ks. He's been a guy that has just been consistent in the top end of the Padres bullpen for years now. And I think a lot of teams are going to be interested in him. I do believe he does go to a team like the Braves, though, because they just need the bullpen help. They've had that struggle for the past couple seasons since they've won the World Series. And I think he's a perfect guy. He fits him. That could be a late inning guy. And I have him signing for 3 years, 30 million. That's around 10 mil a year. I think that's right around where he gets. But yeah, that's my prediction, and I'm actually strong in that prediction because I think the Braves, outside of Raisel Iglesias, have been, missing top heavy guys. So I think Robert Suarez can come in and be a top heavy guy for them. And yeah.
Yeah, for me, I have Robert Suarez going to the defending back-to-back World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. Closing pitcher is definitely a hole that they're looking to fill this offseason. Closing pitching, outfield is definitely their two main priorities. I think Robert Suarez is a guy that fits their team, their culture perfectly. He played in San Diego last year, so it wouldn't be too big of a move for him going from San Diego to LA. I have him getting 3 years, 43.5 million, which is just around 14 and a half a year. I think that's a better ballpark of where I think he's going to get anywhere between 14 to maybe 16 and 17 million. Just my personal preference. But I have Robert Suarez going to a team that needed a closer. They had Roki closing out games in the postseason, but I don't think that's their long term plan with him. They want to get him into the rotation and convert him back into a starting pitcher moving into 2026. If they get a guy like Robert Suarez, that will definitely help them move Roki back into that rotation. And that's going to bring us to number 19, which is going to be very quick and very simple because at number 19, we had Shane Bieber. So our top 30 list was made a couple of days ago before Shane Bieber accepted the qualifying offer from the Blue Jays. I will say that prior to him accepting the qualifying offer, I did have him going to San Francisco. I thought it would have been a good move for him going to the West Coast. They need some help in that middle to back end of that rotation behind Logan Webb. It's kind of been not so great. So it could have been some help for him there. But at the end of the day, he ends up going back to Toronto and accepts the qualifying offer of, I believe, 18 million for him, and which is very interesting because he definitely could have gotten a lot more in free agency, but it definitely says a lot about the team culture and the chemistry and the clubhouse that the Toronto Blue Jays have going on right now.
Blue Jays? What do you mean the Cubs?
Did I say Cubs?
You said Blue Jay.
Yeah, the Blue Jays.
You're talking about. Oh, you're talking about Beaver. Okay, I thought you were talking about Shuda. Okay,
No,
didn't Shuda accept his qualifying offer as well?
no. Shota is a free agent as of right now,
Oh, okay,
so
all right.
we're good on that. He's actually coming up right after
Yeah,
Beaver.
he's next. That's why I was like confused
Yeah,
on who we were talking about. But yeah, Shane Bieber, not much to talk about. I think he could be a guy who can get better as time progresses. I know he's recovering from injury last year, so that's why he didn't get off to a great start. But he was a guy before his injury who would always be in the Cy Young discussion. So it's interesting to see what he'll do next year. I do think him staying with the Blue Jays is good for him because I think that gives him the best chance of winning next year, especially in the AL. So good for him. But again, I didn't have him actually going anywhere. I was kind of like like didn't know where to pick him to go. So I'm glad he kind of went back to the Blue Jays because that's what I would have predicted anyway. But for our next guy, who shoot, I already mentioned him by accident. I thought he ended up you know accepting his offer, but I guess not. I have him going to the Red Sox though because I do think they need pitching behind Crochet. It's another lefty. And yeah, I think he could be a good 2 or 3 on the Red Sox. I don't have him signing for that much, which is probably like a little unlikely now that I look at it. But I had him signing for like 45 million. But we'll see. Honestly, he's another guy that I'm so confused on. I don't know where he's gonna go, but I do like
yeah.
his
Shota's a guy
prospects.
that could kind of fit on any team. I mean, he could
Mhm.
be a 2 or 3 in a rotation, or for very good rotations, he could be a 4 or 5. No problem. I don't think he's gonna get too much money if he hits the open market, which comes to my prediction because I don't. I
Yeah,
think that he is going to end up accepting the qualifying offer and taking the 1 year deal. I think he's a guy that could benefit from a very pitcher heavy market next year in free agency, especially with possible lockout impending in 2027. I don't have a lot of guys at all taking qualifying offers, but I think Imanaga could be the one. Qualifying offer would get him to around 22 million a year, but just to throw out a team out there, if he weren't to accept the qualifying offer, obviously my final prediction is Cubs accepting him going back to the Cubs, accepting the qualifying offer. But if not, I can see him possibly going to the Angels. They just hired Kurt Suzuki to be their manager, so it could be a good connection there. I had Flaherty going to the Angels, and then I think 30 minutes. I think after we uploaded our video on YouTube, we found out that Jack Flaherty was accepting his option, and he'll be heading back to Detroit for the 2026 season. So that won't be happening. So I could also see Shota Imanaga being a fit on the Angels, West Coast being closer to Japan, Kurt Suzuki being their manager. I think that could be a very good fit. But I think he ends up back on the Cubs next year on the qualifying offer. I think the Cubs just didn't want to give him the extra years on his contract.
that's fair.
Which brings us to 17, which is going to be a guy who absolutely mashed in the first half of the season, cooled off a little bit once he got traded at the deadline. Had an okay postseason, a little bit of power, but wasn't hitting for a high contact or anything like that. But a guy that really, really hit well early in the season. Talking about Seattle Mariners third baseman Eugenio Suarez. Obviously, 228 average, like I said, didn't really hit for a high contact, but 49 home runs, absolutely phenomenal home run power from Eugenio Suarez, and he really struggled with the bat once he got traded. Speaks volumes of how strong that first half was. Ended up getting a 3.6 WAR, 824 OPS, all great numbers there from Suarez. And I have him going to the Detroit Tigers. I think this is a good fit for him. If you haven't seen part one, then you'll understand why I have him going to Detroit, possibly a couple of guys leaving from there. So make sure you check that out if you haven't. But I have Eugenio Suarez going to the Tigers, where it all started off for him. I'm pretty sure that's where he started his career, or at least I know he's a former Detroit Tiger. I have him getting 4 years, 70 million. I think it's a really fair offer for Eugenio Suarez. I think that's right around where he's going to be in terms of his years and salary. But I think Detroit Tigers is a good fit for Suarez. I believe the Tigers were bottom 5 in the league in WRC plus in 2025. So definitely a positional need for them. and Eugenio Suarez would be the perfect guy to fill that void.
Yeah, I like that. I like that prediction a lot. I actually think if he does leave the Mariners, I think the Tigers would be actually a great fit for him. But I do have him staying with the Mariners. I just think the Mariners, if like teams like the Mariners or the Blue Jays or teams like that who've lost and were so close last year, if they want to be successful next year, they got to retain some of their guys. So I just have him and Polanco re-signing with the Mariners, but I don't have them getting as much because I do have the Mariners being a little, the Mariners don't usually spend that much money. So I think, and like I don't know if his market's gonna be that strong, so that's why I have him getting 54 million, but over less years. But I do have him staying with the Mariners. I just think the fit was pretty good last year, even though he did struggle. He did step up in that series against the Blue Jays. They just fell short. But yeah, I think the fit with the Mariners was good. I think he should stay there. But I do like the Tigers a lot, though. That's a good pick.
Yeah, and I like your pick too. I think Seattle is definitely uh I think is inclined to possibly re-sign one of Naylor or Suarez, but I can definitely see them losing both. But I like your contract prediction as well. I think it's in the same ballpark. I had eight. You had 18 over 3. I had 17 and a half over 4. So I think that's right around the ballpark that Eugenio Suarez gets, deserves even. Just one of the perennial power hitters in baseball. So it played a decent third base this year, but I assume if a team is going to sign him to a multi-year contract, they're going to possibly look to see him move to DH at some point towards the later side of that contract. So we'll see what happens with Eugenio Suarez. I got Tigers. You got Mariners. Next
Mm-hmm.
up, number 16 on our list is going to be Zach Gallen, who definitely is one of the better pitchers in baseball when he's on. Struggled a bit in 2025, however, pitched to a 4.83 ERA, which we typically don't see from Zach Gallen, 13 and 15 record. So again, I believe he was tied for the most losses or something like that in the MLB. So obviously not what we expect with Flaherty, I believe, which
Yeah.
we talked about in part one. So uh, not the season you'd expect. The strikeout numbers aren't bad, however, 175 strikeouts. The whip is at a 1.26, so right around in that middle range. Definitely want to see Gallen get more into the low, ones and even possibly below one with his whip. Uh, but I want you to take the honors of this because you have something similar to
I
what you
think
had
yeah,
with Eugenio Suarez.
yeah, I think if Gallen, if he had a good year last year, we could be talking about him getting a multi-year deal. But I think both of us realized that he kind of has to prove himself after last year. He was pretty awful, and I think his stats are they look a little bit better on paper, like the 4 ERA. I think he had a 6 ERA all season until the last couple of starts. He ended up performing, so he did have a really bad, like a really stinker of a season. I do think he's comfortable in Arizona though. He's looked good in the past. He's been top 3, top 5 in Cy Young for 2 out of the last 5 years. So I do think he still gets 2 years, but I have him getting about 36 million, which is I think 18 mil a year. You have him getting 23 mil a year. So again, somewhere around 20 mil I think is where he'll get. But he kind of has to prove himself. I do think staying in Arizona benefits him because it's a pitcher's ballpark, but again, I can see the Red Sox. Red Sox is also a really good position. A pick because they do need that position. But I like your pick. But I think Diamondbacks kind of keep him here.
Yeah, I have like Alex just said, I have him going to Boston. I have a little bit of a different direction of where Alex is going. 1 year, 23 million, a prove it deal. And I think this is similar to what Boston did last year with Walker Bueller, signing him to a 1 year, $21 million deal. Obviously, it didn't go as well with Bueller, but I think Zach Gallen definitely is a guy who has more upside than Bueller. He's younger. Um, I believe he's younger. He might be older, actually.
Yeah.
But I think Zach Gallen is proven, just like Bueller was. I think Boston would be willing to take the risk again. They really need pitching behind Crochet. And I think if Gallen can really perform on a 1 year deal, having Gallen and Crochet at the top of that rotation would be really nice. And Zach Gallen is also a Northeast native. He's from Jersey. So definitely wouldn't be too far away from home on a 1 year deal. So I got Zach Gallen going to Boston, 1 year, 23 million. Red Sox need pitching. Gallen will be close to home, be on a contending team. Why not?
It's a good pick. I can
But
see
I
that.
mean, you're building quite a rotation with Gallen going to Arizona and Woodruff. I mean, if both of those things happen, the D-backs are definitely improving their rotation. So
Uh-huh.
I see your direction as Arizona is going to want to compete next year.
Yeah, like they were just in the World Series a couple years ago, and they barely missed the playoffs last year. I think they have a lot of good things going for them if they
They've
could.
missed the playoffs just barely the last 2 years. I mean, this past year, obviously, they struggled a little bit more, but a couple of wins more a month, they would have been in. And then obviously, 2024, they didn't make the playoffs because they didn't have the tiebreaker with the Mets. Mets ended up going to the NLCS. But nonetheless, the Diamondbacks have not been far off the last couple of years. Just need some pitching to shore up that rotation. So I like that prediction. Him staying in Arizona, why not? But I think after having a down year, I just think a change of scenery might be good for him, even if it is just for 1 year.
Yeah,
But if he ends up performing like Bueller, then
I see.
that's all good.
Yeah, we'll see.
Which brings us to number 15. And I'm excited to get into this player because we haven't discussed a Japanese player yet. This is going to be the first Japanese player that we cover, and that is Katsuma Akamoto coming over from the MVP. He is a corner infielder slash DH, but typically I predict that he'll probably play first or third in the big leagues. He's a good defender. Unlike Murakami, I think these are two really good guys coming over from Japan. The way I look at it is Akamoto has a higher floor, lower ceiling, and I believe Murakami has a lower floor but a higher ceiling. So, but that brings me into my prediction for Katsuma Okamoto. Struggled a little bit with injuries in the MVP, especially this last year. But I have him going to the Chicago Cubs. For a while, I had him going to a West Coast team. But at the end of the day, I don't think there's a lot of teams that he would fit. Max Muncy's option did get picked up by the Dodgers, so he will be back in a Dodger uniform next year. And on top of that, the Angels are definitely a good pick, I think, as well. They definitely have some needs there that they need to fill. San Francisco was my original prediction, but just looking at their team, they have Bryce Eldridge at DH, Devers, and Chapman. So I think Okamoto's going to want to go somewhere he can play. I think the Cubs do have a need, possibly at the third base role, possibly for a better defensive third baseman, and first base is a position that they could possibly look to fill as well. They're a contending team, and I think the Cubs are going to be similar they did to last year with the Yankees, similar to what the Yankees did last year, where they lost out on their big player, hint hint, for our top 10. But I think they're going to kind of spend their money around a little bit, shop around. I think Akamoto's a good fit. He's got some Japanese natives, Imanaga, Seiya Suzuki. I think Chicago Cubs is a good pick.
I think it is a good pick, but I don't like it as much as I like my pick. I think the Angels, they finally get a guy. They finally got him spent 100 million. I think they get Kazuma. I don't know too much about him. You know more than I do, but I do know that, like you said, he does play the corners, and I think if he could play third base, he's definitely an upgrade over Yohan Moncada. And I think the Angels is just a good fit, especially if he wants to stay closer to home. I think it works out a lot for his case, and I think he'll be able to play a lot with the Angels. I think the Angels do need a guy like him. They need to go out and spend money. He looks like he's from what he did in the MLB, he does look like he can hit the ball, hit 327. So that's exactly what the Angels need as hitters because the Angels always finish bottom 10 in batting average every season. I looked at it the last 5 seasons; they always hit 220 every season. This guy can come in and hit the ball, so I think this is a good signing for the Angels. But I do think the Cubs is not far off. He does have a lot of his buddies over there, and if they're not buddies, they'll be buddies pretty fast. But yeah, good picks all around. I do like my pick better though, but we'll see. He's
Fair
gonna be
enough. Fair enough. It's a little friendly competition. See who
yeah. It is a
who
catch.
gets more correct. The contracts, which by the way, I have Okamoto for 4 years, 75 million, and you have him for 5 years, 100 million.
Yeah, let's see.
So
Right, I'm actually
some
excited.
solid contracts there to say the least. I think he'll get somewhere in that 60 million to $100 million range.
Mhm.
So that's Katsuma Okamoto, the first Japanese player off the board. But stay tuned because we are going to be covering another Japanese player later on in this video. But before we get there, we
Yo,
are going to move on to number 14. But
this is
before we
this is
go ahead.
hilarious, bro. This pick by you is hilarious. I didn't see it until right now. I started laughing like 5 minutes ago. But yeah.
Yeah, so I'll let you take the honors. No spoilers as to where I have him going.
Okay.
I'll announce it, but it before I do, before he does say his prediction, I just want to know before I made my final prediction, the team that Alex actually has him going to is the team I had him going to.
Yeah.
But then I was like, nah, there's no way. Like they don't really spend. So, and then a lot of dominoes started falling as to where I think people are gonna go, speculation and stuff. So, which led me to my final decision. But I really like your pick, but I don't know. We'll see because they don't spend. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's just the only reason why I like the fit is because they've had Jake Bowers at first base the last 2 3 years, and it's like, come on, maybe get a guy who actually is proven a little bit. He's been in the postseason year after year with the Guardians and now the Mariners last year, so I think Naylor does fit with the Brewers. And I don't have him getting too much. And I don't know if his market's going to be that high either because the first baseman market always tends to struggle, especially with unless you're like a Japanese player. It always you never get close to 100 million with these first basemen. So but I do have Josh Naylor signing 4 years, 54 with the Brewers. I think I like the fit, but like you said, they don't spend, so I don't have him getting too much. He had a good year last year, but again, he's one of those players that it's like, he could fit up with a lot of players. A lot of teams. I like Boston as well because the Costas, he's up in the air, but I think the Brewers is a good fit for him. He kind of doesn't go to those big market
I
teams.
think
Like,
we lost Alex's audio.
oh, am I not talking? Hello, hello.
Nope. There we go. Now I can hear.
Good.
I heard the Red Sox, which I think is a good
Yeah,
fit for Naylor as well because they obviously have a first base need. Obviously, I think they might possibly want to give Casas another year,
yeah,
but at the same time, I mean, if there's a guy out there you can get to drastically improve that position, then why not?
exactly.
But you had your final prediction be Brewers. 4 years, 54 million. So
Yeah,
that's very, very team friendly for
exactly.
Josh Naylor, which I understand why you said that because I think the only way that Josh Naylor is a Milwaukee Brewer is if his market is that low, which
Hmm.
I don't really expect it to be, which takes me to my pick, which for anybody who knows me, you're going to hear my pick for first baseman Josh Naylor and be like, whoa, what does this mean? Because I have first baseman Josh Naylor going to the New York Mets on a 4 year, $72 million deal. This does not mean, though, that I have Pete Alonso leaving because I think it is a big possibility that the Mets retain Pete Alonso as a DH and look to improve the first base position defensively. But I think Josh Naylor is a perfect fit for this Mets team. I don't think he's going to cost as much as some of these bigger names. I have him getting 4 years, 72 million, which is 18 million a year over 4 years. He's proven with the bat. He drew over 95 RBIs last year, and he hit 295 while stealing, I believe, 30 something stolen bases, which is like insane. But 18 million per year to the New York Mets, who improve the Mets' first base position defensively by far. So I think Josh Naylor to the Mets is a very good fit, especially if Pete Alonso departs. But even if Pete Alonso stays and is willing to DH, I think Josh Naylor could be a potential fit for the
Yeah,
New
so
York
I'm
Mets.
surprised you have him getting this Josh, not the other Josh.
Who's the other Josh?
Josh Bell.
Oh God.
Yeah.
We are anti Josh Bell. I don't want Josh Bell. I don't want Cedric Mullins. I don't want Darren Ruff. I don't want Daniel Vogelback. I don't want none of them. Keep them away for a very long time. I don't ever want to see them in City Field wearing blue and orange ever in my life. I don't even want them on a minor league contract. Keep them away. And I know Josh Bell has never played for the Mets for anyone who's confused. But it's a growing meme within the Mets community that the Mets are going to let Pete Alonso walk and their first baseman is going to be Josh Bell next year. So shout out to Frank Fleming.
He's cheap for Stearns.
So
Love
the perfect option. Get ready for the Mets first baseman next year, Ryan O'Hearn.
it. Hey, I actually like O'Hearn, so hey, not bad.
Yeah, he's no Pete Alonso, bro.
No, I know, but it's funny because you texted me like 2 or a day ago or 2 days ago about what the Pete news, and then I saw he changed his thing. That was just hilarious. So that's
Yeah,
why I
he changed his
said,
profile picture on Instagram, so it's not really
bro, to the
looking
Florida
too
one is
good right
crazy,
now.
bro. He's doing too much, bro.
Bro,
That was hilarious, though.
I'm getting ready for all the Yankee fans to say every Mets fan deserves this from taking Soto from us when it's not even close
Yo,
to the same
imagine.
thing.
Yeah, no, it's not. He's been there. He's more in here than Soto was for the Yankees, but
Yeah, I mean, Pete Alonso grew up a Met. I mean, not grew up a Met, but drafted by the Mets, grew
yeah,
up in their system. So,
exactly.
but
Who's
got to
up?
move on to number 13.
Yeah.
We have San Diego Padre starting pitcher, the first San Diego Padre starting pitcher that we'll talk about today because we're going to be talking about two. The first will be Dylan Cease, 15 starts in 2025. Another guy who struggled this year. 8 and 12, 4.55 ERA, 215 strikeouts, phenomenal. 71 walks, however, 1.32 whip. So that whip is not good. Walking too many batters. We know this is the problem with Cease. He's got the ace level stuff, doesn't know how to control it, and that was his problem in 2025. But at the end of the day, I had Dylan Cease going to a ball club who is desperate for pitching. I think there is a possibility that he might be another guy who accepts the qualifying offer from the Padres. I don't expect the Dylan Cease market to be what do you call it? The Dylan Cease market to be too competitive because he is going to have that qualifying offer attached to him, which I think is going to steer teams away from signing a guy who didn't have that good of a year and has a qualifying offer attached to him. But I think there is a team that really needs pitching that could be a really good destination for him, and that's the Baltimore Orioles. They really need pitching. They need pitching help like now. I have him signing a 3-year, $85 million deal. Now I'm looking at it now, and I did forget to put the player option after year one. I do think he'll have a player option in that deal. But at the end of the day, my final prediction is what is on the graphic. And what is on the graphic is I have him going to the Orioles, 3 years, $85 million. I think it is a good contract for Dylan Cease. I think it's a good contract for the Orioles. I think if they can figure something out with him and really bring out that ace stuff that he can control, this could be the most underrated signing of the offseason. So I have Dylan Cease to the Baltimore Orioles, 3 years, $85 million.
I like that pick. I like that pick a lot, but I I could still picture him in an Orioles jersey 100%. But I also like my pick. I do have him going to the Tigers. I just think the Tigers give him a chance because they might lose out. I mean, not lose out on Flaherty, but Flaherty just wasn't the second option that they thought he would be. So I think Cease could be a guy who could come in and be that second option. We know what he's done in the past. Last year wasn't as good, but again, he's him and Flaherty could be solid 2 to 3s behind Scooble. And if you want to kind of keep Scooble happy, you got to give him a little bit of help. I think this is a good signing for the Tigers. I do like the Orioles a lot, though, man. That's a good pick by
I
you.
was just gonna say, there is a possibility that Dylan Cease or Flaherty could be the ace for the Tigers come opening
Exactly.
day. A
Hmm.
lot of trade speculation, and to be honest,
Isn't he a
for
free agent next
Scooble, Scooble is a free agent next
year?
year, yeah. And I think, to be honest, for Scooble, it doesn't really come down to who's behind him in the rotation. I think it more just comes down to if he gets the money, and it seems like they're really far off on the contract.
Yeah, exactly.
So I actually like this pick of him going to the Tigers solely based on the fact that I think Scooble gets moved. And if Scooble gets moved, they might be more inclined to give a shorter contract, maybe a decently sized AAV in that 23 to $25 million range to a guy like Cease. I think it's a fair contract, and I think it's a move I can see them making post Scooble.
Uh-huh. Exactly. That was my thought process. Like if you want to keep him, you got to give him a little help. If you lose him, it's perfect because then he can come in and be maybe the ace. But we'll see.
So
Like
you have 2 years, $54 million, just so we can get that out there.
yeah,
Because before we get into the next guy, just want to remind you guys that after all of free agency is done, the regular season of 2026 is starting to get underway. We're going to come back to our predictions and we're going to see who did better on the predictions. So, 2 points will be awarded for every player we get correct in terms of the team that they sign with, and you will get an additional point if you guess the amount of years correctly. So if you didn't guess the team right, but you got the years correct, you'll get 1 point. If you guess the team right, but not the years right, you get 2 points. And if you guess both right, you get a total of 3 points. And we're going to tally up the points at the end of the off season. We're going to see who knows more ball, me or Alex. It's going to be interesting. Me or Melo. Who's going to be better, me or Melo? Which brings me to our next point before we get into the next guy. If you guys didn't check out part one, make sure to check that out because we did make a massive announcement. Starting in 2026, we will be rebranding all of the Empire podcasts to the Jake and Mello Show. We're going to be talking about sports and entertainment from the worlds of the NBA to the MLB to the NFL, like we did already. We're definitely going to be having more special guests, friends of ours, on the podcast, it's not even going to be a podcast anymore, on the show.
Exactly.
It's going to be so much fun. We're going to be talking about so much stuff. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast. Laughing, a lot of laughing.
Yeah, more collabs. Definitely, it might be in person as well because we got a lot of future plans that are going to be exciting. So wait for that. The show is going to be awesome. Going from a podcast to a show. It's going to be a lot more. We're going to be able to cover a lot more. Be a lot more. Kind of connect with y'all a lot more, which is what we're trying to do going forward.
And especially since we're doing well on TikTok. We're doing really well on TikTok right now, which was our goal. We told each other a couple months ago, listen, if we really start getting going on a platform, we should rebrand everything, redesign, start getting ready for the future. We kind of have a 2 to 3 year plan of like how we want to improve the podcast or the show as we go. So we have long-term plans, long-term visions, but obviously this is just the beginning.
Yeah,
And we're excited.
they'll get to see our real side, like real sides of us, and that's what our goal is. But
For sure.
yeah, it's gonna be good.
And that's going to bring us into number 12. Getting back to our free agent predictions, part 2, here on the Empire podcast. And we will be covering our second San Diego Padres pitcher, Michael King, former Yankee, grew up in the Yankee system, I believe, or was he part of a trade?
No, he was on our system. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, but either way, former Yankee, was on the San Diego Padres in 2025. 15 starts, 5-3 with a 3.44 ERA, 76 strikeouts, 26 walks. So obviously limited. Faced injuries in 2025. But again, Michael King is one of those guys where we know he has the stuff, and he's had the stuff for a long time. And he has the stuff. And in whoever signs him to this next contract could potentially be getting the best version of Michael King, in my opinion. And with that being said, I have Michael King going back to his former team and rejoining the New York Yankees on a 5-year, $115 million deal. I think that this is a perfect fit for the Yankees. Although they have a great starting rotation, they do lack a little bit in that that 5 to 6 range of their rotation. And I mean, they get a guy like Michael King. I mean, imagine that rotation. I mean, Max Fried, Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, Michael King, Cam Schlittler. I mean, what a rotation that would be for the 2026 New York Yankees. I mean, that would definitely fill a little bit of a void they have in their rotation. Obviously, they'll have guys like Luis Hill, possibly Will Warren, Chase Hampton being ready if any injuries occur. But I have Michael King to the Yankees, 5 years, $115 million.
Yeah, I like that. I like that pick, and I love that contract. I think that'd be perfect for the Yankees. However, I just don't think that's where his market's going to be. I think his market's going to be a little higher than that, just because of how good of a year he had in 24. I know last year he was limited, but I still believe in Michael King, and he's proven he could pitch in 2 big markets in the Yankees and the Padres. So I do have him going to another big market. I have him joining the Phillies. The Phillies are a team that Nola hasn't been good in a while. Wheeler was down last year. I know they have Christopher Sanchez and Ranger Suarez, 2 lefties that I like and you can trust. But it's time they get a guy that you can also trust in Michael King. That rotation would be really nasty, especially if Wheeler can be healthy going forward. They can have a solid 5 there, and I like the fit, and I like the contract, mainly because I believe in what he can become, especially the fact that he can pitch in that big market. I like the Phillies here, and I think the Phillies, if they can go after a guy like Michael King that shortens up their pitching, they can face the Dodgers, better than they did last year. Because I think the Dodgers are the only team that are in their way in the NL. But that's why I have Michael King going to the Phillies. I just think he could pitch in that market, and I think it's a good fit. As why the contract's that high is because I still believe in him. But again, I would love if he signs that little with the Yankees, but that's wishful thinking in my opinion. But we'll see.
We will see indeed, and Phillies is definitely a good move, especially if they lose out on Kyle Schwarber, which is definitely a possibility. But
That's
even if they do, the Phillies are desperate to win now. Dave Dombrowski is desperate to win now because he knows if they do not win next year, he is probably out of the Phillies front office. I think he's going to do everything he can to bring a championship
mm-hmm.
to the Philadelphia Phillies in 2026. I like the move, but I was going to get straight into our last pick, but we actually do have some breaking news that I do want to actually cover right now because we actually have two big newses that just came out. So one, I actually think we should talk about this guy because we did have Shane Bieber, unfortunately, that uh, our pick with him kind of got ruined. So maybe we'll slot this guy into his spot. But Pete Fairbanks, closer for the Tampa Bay Rays,
I just
is
seen
going to
that.
become a free agent. The Rays declined his option. He's going to be a free agent. But also, the 2026 qualifying offers just got announced. And there's definitely some interesting names on here. Trent Grisham was offered the qualifying offer from the Yankees. Gleyber Torres was actually offered the qualifying offer from Detroit, which is a little bit surprising. Brandon Woodruff, also from the Milwaukee Brewers. So maybe some of our picks looking maybe a little bit in danger, but a lot of these guys they might be looking for multi-year deals too, so they might just decline them.
Yeah,
But just to name some other guys, Michael King, we just talked about. Shota Imanaga also received the qualifying offer. I had him as my prediction accepting that qualifying offer. Zach Gallen received it. Ranger Suarez. Edwin Diaz also received the qualifying offer. Dylan Cease as well. Framber Valdez. Kyle Tucker. Kyle Schwarber. And Bo Bichette. So a couple of obvious names here. But also some guys I didn't expect to get the qualifying offer. I did not expect the Brewers to offer Woodruff the qualifying offer. I know they declined his option, but a little bit surprising that they'd offer that $21 million uh, qualifying offer to them because they don't really spend like that, even if it is a 1 year deal. So that's definitely interesting. Trent Grisham, I'm honestly surprised that
he's
they
gonna decline.
offered Grisham. Yeah, I'm sure he is going to decline it, but
That's still
uh,
crazy though. 21 mil.
if they, I mean, in a world where he says, you know what, I'm just going to take my 1 year, 22 million. There goes Cody Bellinger. There is no way that the Yankees re-sign Cody Bellinger if Grisham says, you know what, I'm just going to take the qualifying offer. Which obviously he probably won't. He'll look for a multi-year deal. But I'm surprised that the Yankees are taking that risk. But they're trying to get a pick for him, I guess, if he leaves. Smart decision. One thing I will say, a lot of these guys are at the top end of the market, which means, in my opinion, guys who are having qualifying offers on the table, which means if a team signs them, they lose the pick. And on top of that, a lot of these guys are Boris guys. It's telling me this might be a very slow free agent process this offseason, which I'm never a fan of.
Yeah,
But it seems like it's possible that it might be going that way. But the Mets did give the qualifying offer to Edwin Diaz for 22 million. So going to be interesting to see if he accepts that and then becomes a unrestricted free agent. But I think he'll look for his multi-year deal this season. I think a lot of these guys will. But just wanted to give you that breaking news. But I think we should cover Pete Fairbanks. I think this is a guy that he's a closer. He's one of the top end closers in baseball. He's going to be a free agent. It's going to be interesting to see where Pete Fairbanks goes. And if I had to guess, obviously he's going to go to a team that needs a closer. So I'm just thinking off of the top of my head. The Yankees is definitely a possibility. Maybe if they're looking to move Bednar into that eighth inning role, I think it's a possibility for the Mets to look into him if they lose Diaz, or even if they don't, possibly as an eighth inning guy. There's definitely a lot of guys that they can go with.
yeah. I
So
would love him on the Yankees.
I think he would be a good fit on the Yankees. But if I had to give my final
Or the
prediction
Mets,
as to where Pete Fairbanks goes,
Dodgers.
Really, I have him. I have Robert Suarez going to the Dodgers, so I'm gonna stay away from that. I'm gonna say Pete Fairbanks to the Cincinnati Reds. I think they could use a closer. They're a team that is gonna look
Wait,
to compete.
that's a good
I
pick.
think
Holy.
I think the Cincinnati Reds like their white boy relievers. So I'm gonna go Pete Fairbanks to Cincinnati on a. We'll go 2-year deal. Why
Yeah,
not?
sure.
Cincinnati Reds, Pete Fairbanks. There's no graphic for that, so we're gonna have to come back to this video to remember
Yeah,
it.
exactly. I'll say Yankees 3-year deal just to be different.
Okay. Yeah, so different that the Yankee fan is having a guy go to the Yankees right on the spot. Wow. So creative.
Familiar. He's so familiar with us, bro. He plays us every single day. Like I swear, we're always
I
facing.
could also see possibly maybe the Orioles as a fit if they try to move Bautista. That could be an option.
Hey, but you're not locking in that pick, so hey, if
I'm
that does
not.
happen,
I have them Cincinnati Reds. Let's go
okay.
Cincinnati Reds. Why not?
All right, let's see
But we do have one more free agent to cover, and it's going to be another Japanese pitcher
your favorite
or
player.
Japanese player, and this time it's a Japanese pitcher, Tatsuya Ime. What a phenomenal year! I mean, he had in the MVP. He pitched 2A, 1.92 ERA, 24 starts, 10-5 record, 0.89 whip. One of the best pitchers in Japan by far. And I have him going to what I think is an absolutely out of left field pick. I don't think anybody expects me to say this team as to where Tatsuya Ime is going. I have him going to the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's a Dodger.
You can't say that. No way.
What?
Another
I think this is the most shocking pick I think we've had yet, or
yeah,
I've had yet. I
out of
think
left field. Like,
Tatsuya, yeah, 100%. I have him going to the Dodgers, 5 years, 130 million. I mean the Dodgers, they have so many holes on their team that they need to fill. This is a team that struggled to win. You know, they really haven't won. I think the last time they won a World Series was like what they won one in COVID and then 1988. Yeah, they really have struggled, especially with starting pitching. I mean, Yamamoto really hasn't been good. Otani, you know, one of the worst two-way players in history. And um, you know, I just think personally, just my opinion personally, I do think that they do have a lot of holes that they need to fill. The Dodgers organization really isn't well run. And you know, I just think that they have a lot of holes that they have to, you know, fill. They're
yeah, who's saying that, bro? Like, hey, Dodgers need to win a championship. They're desperate. They haven't won the last 20 years. I actually like.
no, but seriously, I just think another Japanese pitcher is going to the Dodgers.
Yeah,
5 years, 130 million,
yep.
and we're gonna see in the postseason. It's gonna be great when you know team is facing the Dodgers and they have to face Otani, Sasaki, Yamamoto, Ime. Just the All Japan team. Why don't we just call it the All Japan team?
Oh God, they
Let's
all want
just
to
treat
play
Seiya over there too. Seiya Suzuki over there. Why not? Shota Imanaga's going there too. Everybody's going to the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Dodgers. I mean, you got to give the Dodgers props. They've become the organization that everybody wants to go to, and they're just a phenomenally run organization. They win championships. They do whatever they can to win. They spend money. Some people might not agree with it. As a Mets fan, my team spends so much money too, and we didn't make the playoffs. So look at the Dodgers; they're spending a lot of money as well, and but they're winning championships. So I can't really complain about what the Dodgers are doing
Right.
because they're doing the same thing the Mets are doing. They're just doing it a million times better
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly.
and to the third power. But it's interesting that I have him going to the Dodgers because the team you have him going to is a team that the Dodgers are also familiar with.
Yeah, that's the team that they spanked. No, I'm just kidding. But they, the team that they just beat. I wanted to be different with this pick. I told myself going into this free agency, let me just pick everybody going to the Dodgers and see what happens because I'd probably get more right if I just picked everybody going to the Dodgers. But I wanted to be different just because I was like, let's actually have a battle here. So I picked them going to the Blue Jays. I think that's another team that's likely. Because they do get
I
some
think
guys.
that's like
Yeah, it's very likely, and I do have them getting. I do have the Blue Jays overpaying for him, just so they can have the. Because last year I didn't like the pitching matchup going in the World Series. I think Gossman being their one, against Otani and Yamamoto and guys like that. Just didn't really move
Yeah,
the needle.
Yesevich pitching game one of the World Series, a
Yeah,
guy who started
relying on
in
a
Class
rookie
A.
so
You can't
high is
expect him to do that all of next year, what he did in that postseason run. And I
exactly.
think they would have to overpay. It makes sense. The Canadian tax is obviously way more, so they would have to overpay a little bit.
Exactly. Okay, so at least we're thinking the same way. I do have him getting 6 years, 180 million. Again, the Dodgers fit is my go to choice as well. But I just wanted to be different. I saw you pick Dodger. I'm like,
No, I love the Blue Jays pick. If I didn't go Dodgers, I would have went Blue Jays as well. I
yeah,
think those are 1 and 2 for Ime, and I think there are other teams like the Mets could possibly be on him. The Red Sox, obviously West Coast teams like the Giants, I think will also be in on him.
hmm so yeah,
But yeah, that's basically gonna wrap up. Well, not basically, it is gonna wrap up our free agent prediction breakdown part 2. So make sure to stay tuned for part 3, which is our finale of a 3-part series. We are gonna have numbers 10 to 1. We have some great names for you, including Kyle Tucker, Kyle Schwarber, Pete Alonso, Munetaka Murakami, so much more, Bo Bichette. I mean, the list goes on and on. So many good names that are going to be coming out in part 3. So make sure that you look out for that video tomorrow. It's going to be a good one. But we do want to appreciate you guys for watching this video. I think it was a little bit longer than part 1, but definitely went a little more in depth, had a little bit more fun with it. We're excited for what the future holds here on the channel, like we said. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to be here for part 3. Turn on notifications so you know when we upload. Like, subscribe, do what you got to do. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Like we said, the TikTok is booming right now, so make sure to follow us on there. And thank you guys for watching, and we will see you tomorrow for part 3 of the MLB Free Agents. Peace out, guys.